Hi, Erica. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you talk with me today.
Yay, hi Mary. It's so glad to be here. I love that we get to have a conversation. This is gonna be great.
Finally. So I'm going to kind of tee us up a little bit and have you introduce us. Um, so you and I just finished a coaching package together. In fact, you were my very last coaching person. And I have such like a heart affinity for you and for this. And in the course of chatting, you and I were working on your workshops, which we're going to talk about a little bit. But you help people especially with Apple products. We are recording right before Christmas slash Hanukkah 2024. People get lots of gifts for the holidays. I'm going to put this out after everyone has unwrapped said gifts. And then that way, maybe they might find a little bit of help in this because technology, as you and I both have experienced in our businesses, can really be an emotional thing. It really sets people off. I always say when the internet is down, you really find out who has a little work to do with fear of abandonment and childhood issues. That's
Yeah.
always a real telltale sign. So before we get into all like the tech talk, would you like to tell us a little bit more about you? You are a spiritual minister. You are an Apple genius. You're like all the things. It's super cool. Would you like to tell us more, please?
Yeah, somehow my left brain and my right brain both came into development, and I've been an Apple nerd for 30 years now. I even spent 6 years working at the Apple store in the Seattle area. And but I've always also been a spiritual person, even though I ran screaming away from any kind of God, religion, faith when I was 19. And about 20 years later, I got the cosmic drag to come back. And so I eventually became an interspiritual interfaith minister ordained in June of 2020. But I tell people I'm still human. Even though I do the tech work, I do it from a perspective of I just happen to know about this stuff, and there are things in this life that you are phenomenal at that I have no idea about. So I'm just here. My whole job, no matter what I'm doing, is to care for people. And I bring that energy to every interaction that I have, is making sure that people feel seen and cared for and heard.
Yeah, you do an amazing job of it. I watched you. It's been so cool. It's so important that people feel like they are seen, heard, that they're in a safe space. And I've noticed that in the last few years, I think people are getting more on board with the idea that if it's something that's tech related, that it's also okay to have a lot of feelings around that. And that you really need the same consideration that you would with more emotional issues in business or in life. And so I just think it's really special when you showed up in my business, in my life. I was like, oh, this is gonna be so much fun to work with you. And we had a lot of fun, so it was really good.
We did. It was great. Yeah. Yeah. And okay, even I yell at my computer when it doesn't want to do what I want it to do. I'm like, are you kidding me? Why are you not doing this? And I get really frustrated and upset. And so, it's about learning the tools to kind of come back and go, okay, restart the thing and come back and see if it fixed it.
Yes, yes, you and I have both had our moments. My least favorite piece of tech are printers. They're the
Ah, yes.
bane of my existence. When I was a tech director, they were the bane of my existence. In my home office, it's the bane of my existence. Do you have a least favorite piece of tech?
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, I might be with you on the printers. I have ordered an entire replacement for our home network, like internet network,
Mhm.
modem and router, because we've had two printers that sometimes kind of fall off the face of the iPad. The iPad just goes, what? And you reboot the iPad, you reboot the printer, and oh, look, there it is. So I'm like, all right, the common denominator here is the network. I'm ditching the network and just
Yeah.
redoing it. So, yes, the routers are coming today and the modem is coming in a couple of days. So,
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
I
It's
know, right?
always the printer. The printer is always the problem child in the tech stack.
I know, right?
Every
It's
single
like, come
time.
on.
Somebody out there that was meant for them. I don't know why I brought up printers, but I was like, it's meant for somebody. Um,
Yeah.
Okay, so you deal primarily with Apple products. I'm an Apple nerd. I think a lot of us in entrepreneurship are, not exclusively. I have serviced a lot of PC users in my years of coaching systems. Um, but you and I were talking before we hit record about how important it is to recognize that when you're seeking tech help, like tech is tech, toys are toys. The operating system just is the thing, but everybody in our businesses now, we really don't function without a laptop or computer. We've got mobile devices. What's some of your best advice for people who are already feeling the strain of like tech feels like it's moving really fast for them? They feel like, they know the one thing and they've got to stay locked in on one thing. But you and I both know that thing's going to change as soon as they release a new update. And then you've got to roll with the changes again. So, like, how does somebody sort of start navigating the rolling with the changes with tech and having to upgrade?
Breathe. Seriously, take a moment and just breathe. Because our nervous systems get so wound up and so freaked out because, oh my God, it's different now. I don't know what to do with it. It's like, okay, there's no way that you can figure out what to do if your nervous system is dysregulated and
Yeah.
going, you literally physically don't have the capability because your brain has shut that part off.
Yeah.
And so breathe. It's funny, I used to tell someone that I care deeply for, breathe slowly.
Slow.
Because, you can breathe. Breathe. No, 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 honey. No, no, no. Breathe. You know? So, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is just, it's so easy to get so wound up. And I do it too. You know, something doesn't work, I get all kinds of wound up.
Yeah.
And then I remember, wait a minute, I know what I'm doing. I'm capable. I can do this.
Hmm.
So I take a second and I breathe. Sometimes I walk away for a little while and then come back. And then I've got fresh eyes and fresh brains to work with it again.
Yeah, to problem solve.
Hmm.
um what do you feel is the best way somebody can make a determination? Like, is this something that now that you're breathing slowly? I love that. But slowly, because it's so true.
It really
But
is.
once you're breathing slowly, and you've taken a break and you come back and you're like, oh, the sky is still up, the world is still moving, the thing's not working, but like I've got air in my lungs, blood's pumping through my veins, we're all good. Nobody
Mm.
died, nobody went to the hospital, nobody got arrested, we're good. And those are my three primary markers. And so now that we've determined that, how does somebody then make a next best determination for themselves? Is this something I attempt to fix on my own? Or do I need to, embrace reality and get professional help for the problem? Some people are good at fixing things, some people are not. But also, as business owners, we can waste a lot of times trying to tinker with things and maybe it's not worth it. Like, do you have any advice after having been an Apple genius? I mean, like, I'm sure you have seen some crazy things.
I've seen a lot of crazy things, but yeah, I try not to pay too much attention to the crazy things because I'm like, hey, that's your thing and it's okay. And people have 9,000 things on their desktop, and I'm like, I've seen worse. It's okay. You're welcome here. It's good. um, Honestly, though, yeah, 9 times out of 10, restarting the device will help.
Yeah.
Just, turn it off, turn it back on. Same thing works for us. I think
I
it
was
was
just
Anne
gonna
Lamott
say,
that said that.
as humans, sometimes you just need to reboot.
Yeah,
Just need to.
exactly. Just like, hey, turn it off, turn it back on. But yeah, that fixes 9 out of 10 problems.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work, you know, spend a half an hour figuring, seeing if you can find, Google some things and see if you can find an easy answer. And if you can't find an easy answer, it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah. I've seen people so many times. Oh my goodness. Then if I had $1 for every time in a mastermind in the past, I heard in a discussion, they're like, but I don't want to reboot because they have all the tabs open and they have all the things. how do you walk somebody through when they're like, but I've got all these things in motion, in the idea of having to even like just save those bookmarks and then start them back up again or whatever. It just seems so insurmountable that it's taking them longer to get to the reboot than to just restart the whole thing. Like what kind of advice would you give somebody? You know, it could be a spiritual perspective, it could be just a practical tech perspective, but like, how do you handle it? I'm so curious, honestly.
Well, I mean, most of the modern browsers now allow you to reopen all the tabs before the reboot. So
Mhm.
it's not a thing. They'll come back. And honestly, if they don't, you probably didn't need them that much anyway. Yeah, that's my woo perspective is, if they didn't come back, I must not have really needed them. And if I did, they'll come, I'll find them again.
Yeah. I I want to reiterate that. I feel like Oprah in this moment, you know, when she used to repeat people's things. But I'm like, it's so true though. If they were important, they will come back to you. I
I
think
lost a
sometimes we
whole window of tabs one time, and I'm like, but okay, fine. I had all,
Mhm.
15, 20 tabs. And yes, I'm the person who, on Apple launch days has 100 tabs open because I want to read about all the things.
Yeah.
Uh, but, you know, it was probably 15, 20 tabs I had open, and somehow that window got closed. And I'm like, crap. Well,
Yeah.
okay. You know,
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world. If you really need it, it'll come back.
I agree. I feel like that is one of the biggest emotional markers. So for all the people who pay attention on Sensible Woo TV and then they're listening in right now, you know, if you notice, you're like, oh, I feel so called out right now with all my tabs. Like, this is one of the top number one symptoms and signs of there is an emotional dysregulation starting to show up because you're super attached to all the tabs. You don't even remember what tabs you have open. You don't even remember where things are. Maybe it's time to, the systems coach in me would say, maybe it's time to stop, drop, and roll. Breathe, as you would say, slowly, and literally carve out an hour to deal with those tabs, which means you're not just dealing with the tabs, you're dealing with yourself, you're dealing with your emotions, and you're going to have a little come to Jesus time with the self and say, like, but why am I keeping all these open? Do I need to do something with it? Do I need to bookmark it? That will open up a whole host of other systematic things going on in business. You and I talked about this all the time. You are a system. And it's like maybe you need a system for keeping track of your ideas, and you've been using your tabs as an idea parking lot, you know. But that kind of stuff will hold you back from doing a simple reboot, which will solve, say, your office printer problem.
Right? Yeah. And, I have a block of time on Friday afternoons. It's my admin time. And one of the things that is on my list of things to do is close unneeded browser tabs.
Yeah.
I just schedule it and do it every week. Also on my list every week is back up my Mac. Because,
Yes.
come on now, we need
Oh,
backups
well,
because
and
we do.
Apple makes it so easy. Time Machine is one of the
Yeah.
most brilliant, beautiful things. I love it.
Yes. Yes. I was
There's
working at
just
the
no
store when
reason.
that came out, and it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And now I'm like, but how do PC users back up? Full disclosure, I've never owned a PC, and anytime I work on them, I get stabby. Just
Yeah.
because the Apple pays attention to the small details. I'm not
Yeah.
saying Apple is, perfect company or anything.
Mm-hmm.
They're a behemoth and they have their problems.
Mm-hmm.
And the interface and the design pays attention to those small details that
Yeah.
make things more visually appealing, more comforting, and easier on my nervous system.
I think that's a really big one. Something as simple as, but how do I back up my computer? I have had to solve this problem for people in the past who have Windows machines, and it's pretty unanimous amongst the the journalists, the tech journalists, and the ones who are heavy Windows or Linux users have all admitted they're like, I don't understand why, especially for Windows users with Microsoft, why they don't just copy the Apple model because it works and they're fully capable. And it's sort of this like culture of being able to build and customize your Windows machine. And it's just been very pervasive over decades now. But users really want sort of out of the box, just like beautiful design. And it's something that Apple really nails. So yeah, for Windows users, it's a little bit more complicated. There's a few more steps, but I like that you bring up the point about nervous system again, which is like when you're making a choice on what kind of tech toys you choose to play with in your business, that these are choices to be made. Um, and for somebody who may have a more delicate nervous system, perhaps choosing something, I mean, Apple products do tend to be a little bit more pricey, but I would argue there's a reason for it.
They last longer too, though.
Hmm.
You're not replacing your Mac every year.
Yeah.
I mean, I generally keep them 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep my phone,
Nice.
usually I keep it, 2, probably 3 years. I did not follow that when the iPhone 16 came out, but I wanted the Apple Intelligence features, so I ended up
Hmm.
with my mom got my 15 and I got a 16. But
Hmm.
tangent.
When I saw you
Squirrel.
unbox yours, because you sent me pictures and videos, I was like, oh, I think I need to upgrade my phone.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, that's why I sent you the unboxing video of the what was it, the keyboard or the trackpad? I forget.
It
And I'm
was
like, it
all of
does
it. I was
smell
like,
like
tell me about the
apples.
smell. Tell me about the smell.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I love that everything keeps coming back to this, well, you and I talked a lot about nervous system. You've watched me talk about nervous system, I feel like nonstop these days in my business, because it's so important. And, I'm wondering, like, for people who receive gifts or maybe didn't think about their nervous systems before they made a decision, it's like, well, I've always used Windows or Apple or whatever. And so therefore that's the one I'm just gonna, because it's what you know.
Hmm.
or or I've seen this in entrepreneurs. Well, the cool kid crowd seems to all be on MacBook Pros. I had a client in the past that did this, and she's like, but I don't like them. I like a Windows machine. I'm like, who says you have to be on a MacBook Pro? So like sometimes we
Yep.
make kind of weird decisions, right? But let's say that you
Hmm.
you know you've made a decision for whatever reason, or you've been given a gift during the holidays,
Hmm.
and you're discovering that you don't really feel like a strong connection to this tool. What's your recommendation? Because sometimes like these things are not returnable, they're expensive. Sometimes too, if you're short on money and somebody gifts you something, like the gratitude of like, wow, I really need a laptop right now, and the universe just gave me one, and maybe it's not my ideal machine, but like
Hmm.
it's a little bit of a learning curve for me to get into this thing. So what are some of the first things people can do after they breathe slowly? What are some of the other things they can do to kind of ease into that? Also, aside from taking your tech trauma workshop, which would also be helpful, I would say. Like, what are some of the
Well,
other things they could
yes.
do?
Well, I mean, Tech Trauma Workshop helps give people resources to
Yeah.
be able to come back and handle this and feel confident and competent with it. But you know, try visual changes. These systems these days, phones and tablets and laptops and desktops, they all Mac or PC or Linux even. I don't know much about Linux, even though I used to code
Hmm.
Unix when I was a programmer. But surely they all have interface updates that you can do. You can turn
Yeah.
on and turn off different features. And, you know, I walk people through that kind of stuff all the time. This thing is annoying me. How do I do it? Okay, well, let's go turn that feature off. Or let's
Yeah.
go turn on a feature that's going to make that palatable for you,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and if you don't like it immediately, it's okay to get support to say, hey, how can I use this well? How can I get what I need out of this?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because you
I
don't
think,
have to do it alone.
oh, there's the magic that you don't have to do things alone.
Hmm.
Tech is not an alone thing. It's funny because it connects us with each other. And yet, how many times do we see ourselves and other people just try to isolate themselves through tech? It's kind of weird, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. I I do it too. It's I'm on my phone and
Yeah.
and yet I'm kind of in a rural area, so I don't have a lot of local people.
Yeah.
And so many of my friends are online,
Hmm.
and that's how I keep in touch with people. It's
Yeah.
it's a truly a lifeline. So yes, it connects us and it has the power to isolate us. I think it's a both and sort of situation.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, like, what is your take on this from, especially from the spiritual side, as a minister, as somebody who like literally supports people. If somebody has come through this holiday season, um, maybe they received new tech toys for gifts. Maybe they treated themselves too with holiday sales because that's also smart to do for budgeting. Or maybe they're just dealing with whatever it is that they've got. Um,
Hmm.
how can somebody move into a space of using their tech to help them get reconnected again instead of feeling isolated? Because the world right now would love to isolate us in so many ways. And
Yes.
I feel like our tools can really help us. They're like tools of revolution, really. To get connected back into community is a very powerful thing to do. So, like, what might be some of the things somebody can do um, that then increases that nervous system regulation, so they can continue to increase their functioning and do better and better? Like, what would you advise somebody if they were in front of you as a client?
I think there are so many local resources that we just don't know about that we have to seek out. Um, or, maybe we're off in our own little sequestered corner of the world and there are online resources that we just need to seek out.
Mm-hmm.
I stay connected with my people mostly through Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving Blue Sky these days.
Mm-hmm. Been fun of
Um,
there.
yeah, it's what Twitter used to be when
Yeah.
Twitter was good.
Altered OG Twitter was so good.
I know. I resisted Twitter for so long. And
Yeah.
then I just became completely enamored with it.
Yeah.
Um and then it went to shit. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
the world changes, right? I mean, it's a really good
Hmm.
point. The world changes, and the ways that you used to connect with somebody are not going to stay constant forever. And to get stuck in sort of, oh, I wish when, or like, why did that happen, is not going to help you stay connected moving forward, which is going to add to that dysregulation. And then one day you get a new tech toy and you can't figure it out, and it feels like the world is falling apart, and now your business is suffering because you're not putting out the thing to your people, and it's just this like ugly downward spiral. And it's funny because like that all happens because we're using these pieces of technology, and it's just a part of our modern reality that we need it in order to function.
Well, we're trying to be the rugged individualist. That icon of the cowboy, the
Mm-hmm.
American cowboy that does it all on their own and they can do all this and they don't need anybody's help and blah blah. And I'm really sorry to disappoint people, but people are pack animals. So we cannot do life alone. I mean, babies, when they're first born, if they don't get enough touch, they don't survive. We are wired for community. That's why, I put together a group of my favorite queer people who just all happen to be ministers from my school. And we meet every week just to be in community,
Yeah.
just to talk to each other and just to say, hey, I see you. Hey, it's hard right now.
Yeah.
How can I support you? What do you need?
Hmm.
And so often for me, all I need is just that time to talk,
Yeah.
just that time to feel connected and to say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's so good. I think it's also important, like, to find the right community. Do you have any advice for people who are trying to get reconnected? Like, I love that you pointed out you do live in a rural area where you really need, video conferencing and like phone calls and social media. Like, it keeps you
Hmm.
plugged in with all your people. Um,
Hmm.
and what about, I see a lot of people who are finding that their community spaces are shifting and changing, which means more change. You're going to have to leave that Facebook group and find a different one, or you're going to have to, just talk with people differently. I think finding people who are patient with your needs and vice versa is really important. But you know how can somebody use tech to help them find the community that they need in this season? Like, what would you tell them?
Find people you trust and figure out where they're hanging out.
It just starts with like one person, really.
It does.
Yeah, yeah. One of my favorite
It
questions
really
ever.
can only start with one person.
Mm, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because if we try and connect with 15 people all at once, we're going to get frayed.
yeah,
But if we make that connection with one person, it's a whole lot more steady and more stable
yeah,
than trying to spread ourselves too thin.
yeah. I have always asked people in the business community when I meet like one really, really good person. When you connect with somebody and it's a good
Yeah.
connection, you know. And I'll always ask them, where else are you going to find other good people? I just ask them directly. And if they are truly like the right connection, they never fail on giving me excellent answers. It's never failed.
Yes.
Earlier this year, I made a new friend locally, and once we were put in touch, we hit it off like peas and carrots. And I just figured, like, oh, this will be great. It'll grow over time. And much to my delight and surprise, she just came out and she's like, I really enjoyed our connection. Can we be friends? Like, she literally asked, can we be friends? And I
Mm,
loved that. And I really just sort of like hung on to it. I was like, I'm going to stick that little tool in my toolbox. Like, I thought that was we forget as adults, like, you can ask directly, like,
yeah.
can we just be more connected like all the time? And then so many things flow from that. And it all started through a piece of technology. We were put in, even though we're local, we were put in touch through a virtual contact.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Well, you and I both are members of the LGBT community. We're both really big advocates for marginalized peoples everywhere. And for our, I've been trying to like weave this into a lot of the videos, which I know you've seen too. For our fellow queer crowd, speaking of technology and connecting and not always having all the resources you need immediately locally. Um,
Hmm.
what might be a way, let's say somebody's like, but I don't have somebody who's in front of me, so I don't even have that first person yet. Like, what are ways that they can use their computer, their phone, to search for a resource, and it may not be local, but something where at least they can connect and like plug back in. Like, what are some of the ways that you would do, because you do live rurally, like I don't,
Hmm.
so I don't know what it's like to be far, like literally physically geographically far removed. Like, how do you handle it?
Um, well, there's a couple of things that come to mind right off the top of my head. One is the Everywhere is Queer,
Hmm.
which I know is based,
Yeah, here.
in Oregon near you. Um, but that is, I found an ice cream place in my town that's on that listing, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a queer friendly place in town, or maybe even queer run place in my town. Holy cow, you know. Um, but between them and the Trevor Project,
Hmm.
so go to these big queer organizations. Free Mom Hugs. Free Mom Hugs does events.
Yeah.
And, I signed up to volunteer with them. I have my t shirts. I just got them a few days ago. And Yeah, it's like, okay, when are they going to have an event locally that I can go and hug on some people and tell them how loved they are,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm taking notes. I'm going to put all of these into the show notes with your link to your tech trauma workshop because you're doing another one in January.
Hmm.
And I'm sure if somebody catches this video later, there will be another one later too. But I think too, like maybe somebody stumbles along through YouTube because I've done my job with the algorithm and they find us here, and and they
Hmm.
realize like, oh, okay, maybe I can hop into one of Erica's programs and give it a try and just start trying. As a in your ministering work, do you notice that people sometimes struggle just to like try, just to like put themselves out there? Like, is that a problem that you notice with people?
I noticed it with myself. So yes, I do notice
Okay, what advice would you give to yourself?
that. um, Center the nervous system. Know that you're going to be okay. Um, in the town I live in, I have chosen to be pretty, like, not closeted, but not flamboyant.
Hmm.
Yeah, to kind of slide under the radar a bit. But, in the town, the bigger town that's, kind of just over from here, it's okay. It's better.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier
Yeah.
because it's more of a purple town instead of very,
Right.
very red.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, find your purple places.
Oh, that's a good one. Find your purple places. Mm. You know,
Especially if you live in a red state, find a purple place.
I love this point. It might be the thing that we end on just because it's such a good to do item. It's also very doable. We're all in the age of Google, capable of Googling things now. But we just finished an election year cycle. And so all that data, that polling data, is now public and it's very up to date, right? So
Hmm.
it's actually a really great time if to do searches, especially if you do come from more red areas and you are more blue and you need more resources and more help, is seek the purple areas. I think sometimes we look for such extremes where it's like, where's the blueberry and the cherry pie? And it's like, but you might not have any blueberries in the cherry pie, but you might have some grapes.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. And you can go for the grapes, and that
Yeah.
can help. That can help an awful lot.
And it's okay to be cautious when you're walking into a new place.
Yeah, I agree.
It's it's absolutely okay to protect yourself and kind of feel it out before you're like, "Hey, guess who I am?" You know?
Mhm. I have to
Uh-huh.
say, I always have felt like as I age, I feel very privileged. I've always been very femme passing, and very straight passing to most people, even though all my queer friends are like, I don't know how that would happen, but
Yeah,
um,
same. Same. I didn't come out till I was 39, so,
yes, we
even
both
I
have
didn't know.
late stories. I think it's part of our generation too, and
Hmm.
and so I kind of like fly under the radar a lot of places where I go, and I do enjoy that advantage because there is a safety feeling, a big safety feeling
Hmm.
in a lot of places. So yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, this
And
is
that's a privilege that we have, though. I want to
yes.
acknowledge that that is absolutely a privilege that we have that not everybody has.
Not everybody has it by a long shot.
Yeah. And I want to
So
honor the people who don't have that privilege and who take the risk every day and still go out.
mm,
I want to honor those people because that's not a small thing.
no, no, but we can use our tech, we can tame our trauma, and we can
We
find
can.
purple places.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And we can breathe slowly.
Yeah. Thank you for the reminder. Oh my goodness. I'm going to drop all your info into the video description and all the links that we talked about as well. But Ericka, I'm so grateful to you for being my last like coachy and at least for a while, and just
Mhm.
being such a delight. And we had so many great conversations, and it was such a privilege to support you also in your growth this year. And I'm so excited for all the things you do, and I'm just so grateful that you came to hop on and give us some small nuggets of very calm, regulated advice on how to handle something that helps us, have more influence in the world. If we don't have our technology under us, it's going to be really hard to do that. And so I really thank you. Before we finish, is there like any word of wisdom that you would like to give to anyone who's watching all the way to the end?
Well, first of all, thank you. It was such a joy to work with you. I loved being able to be in contact and just be like, what is this? And you're like, yeah, honey, it's okay. Um, and I guess in that vein, it is reach out for the support you need.
Yeah.
We are not meant to do life alone. People are pack animals,
Mhm.
and it's okay to receive help because you are deeply loved just because you breathe.
Oh, it's so good. Thanks, friend. Thanks for hopping on and giving us a beautiful reminder.